You suck, you didn't get any of that? Oh, shit. Hey team, today we do some science. Ever ask yourself, how do we know the effectiveness of hand sanitizer? Well, I did, but especially if you make your own, like I did. Go ahead and click this card here and learn how to make your own hand sanitizer, like I did. And then come back. Arm yourself with the knowledge that the hand sanitizer you make, or the ones that you buy, is legit and actually does what you intend for it to do. And that's kill bacteria and other nasty wasties and all of their friends.
I want him dead. I want his family dead.
We've got 3 hand sanitizers to test. A homemade version, Purell, and the dollar store version. And we're going to test it against soap and water and our control group. More on that later. That's what we're doing today on Studio 214. Woo! Now, the first hurdle to overcome for this experiment is how to make Jen's hands reliably dirty. That is to say, each time we test her hands, we need them to have the same amount of stuff on them. We call them pathogens for each test, because otherwise, our starting point would be different, and that, my friends, would confound our findings, and that's a no good. But more on that later. What we need is a pathogen-rich environment with which to expose Jen's hands to for the same amount of time each time we do a sample. I got it! We will go to the local duck pond with a bucket and make that our PRE, or pathogen-rich environment, with which to gunk up Jen's hands with. That should do. Should. And now we'll just load this specimen, this PRE, pathogen-rich environment, into the truck and back home to the studio. Come on, let's go. So, we're going to set up 6 petri dishes, one to collect a sample before Jen washes her hands, a pre-control group. Then we're going to go for control. More on that later. For the control, we're going to have Jen dunk her hands in a pathogen-rich environment for 20 seconds. 20 seconds in the devil's bucket. After she dunks her hands in the PRE, we will take a sample, and that should tell us what her hands would be like with no sanitizing countermeasures. Then, over to the PRE for a 20-second soak, after which she will wash her hands for 20 seconds with soap and... This will be the strategy for every test. She washes her hands for 20 seconds twice, so that we have the same starting point. Hopefully, no pathogens. Then, we introduce her hands to the PRE to get them to the same level of gunk for each test. Gunk! In other words, all the bacteria and dirt and fecal matter and all the other nasty stuff found in a typical bucket of pond water. We call it the devil's bucket, and there's good reason for it. After the soap, we will use 6 grams of homemade sanitizer, and then 6 grams of Purell, and then 6 grams of the dollar store brand hand sanitizer after each iteration for the countermeasures, the sanitizing countermeasures. She's then going to wash twice, soak in the PRE, dry hands with 1 paper towel, and then administer each one of those 6 grams of sanitizer. Take a sample, then repeat. I should be wearing eye protection, this is ridiculous. And then we went to see the results, which is a great time to talk a little about the scientific method. Mikey, when I was a kid in college, it generally had 4 steps, although nowadays you can find up to 7. I saw one just the other day. Step number 1, make a hypothesis. All that means, Mike, is to figure out what it is you want to test, and then make predictions about what you expect to see, leading you to step dose. Step dose, Mikey, is conduct an experiment. This is a step where you actually run tests in a disciplined manner to collect data that you can then learn from. Crucial in this step is eliminating variables. What do you say, Mike? What's a variable, and how do you get rid of them? Excellent question. First, let's understand what our objective is. We want to find out the relationship between pathogens, bacteria, diseases, and other nasty things on hands, and the effects different types of hand sanitizers have on them. Also soap and water. This is a cause and effect relationship. If we apply X amount of Y sanitizer, it should yield the same results every time we do it. And that's important. However, if we follow the exact same procedures, but get different results, well, my friend, what you got there is an unidentified variable that messes up the data we collect. This is called a confounding variable because it confounds your experiment, rendering any conclusions drawn from the data unreliable, and that's not a good thing. Now, Mike, variables aren't all bad. Indeed, we need variables to test different types of scenarios and situations. For instance, does 6 grams of sanitizer work better than 12? By the way, don't use 6 grams of sanitizer like we did. Way too much, way too much. Another example is sanitizer A, which was bought from a store, just as effective as the hand sanitizer this guy made from home. Spoiler alert, according to our tests, it isn't. Mine was better. I win again! Each change in the item being tested is a variable, and as long as we eliminate any variable that will have an effect on our data, that is, except the variable we're testing, of course, then our data should be reliable because it is replicable. We can do it again and get the same results, which is exactly what we want. Why? Well, Mikey, because it will let us know exactly how much we need to use and if it is even effective. It will give us the wisdom we need to apply the knowledge we have gained in a beneficial way. And, hopefully, keep us from getting sick. Yes, definitely that. Which leads us to step 3, collect data. The best way to do that is to observe what happens in a logical, meaningful way, so as to get the best data. This may include using sophisticated machinery, or measuring, or in our case, counting the number of colonies on the petri dish and letting them grow from samples taken during step 2, which leads us to step 4. Step 4 is draw conclusions from the data. Most conclusions would be very hard indeed to conclude things from without a most important group in the experiment. And this is the control group. No good study ever came out without a good control group, I'll tell you that right now. Now, Mike, if you're wondering what a control group is, well, let me tell you. A control group is a test subject, whether it be animal, vegetable, mineral, or groups of them, or in our case, Sweet Jen's meat hooks, that have all had testing variables, that have had all the testing variables eliminated. This is done so you can look at what would happen if nothing was done. As an example, Sweet Jen's hands will be exposed to our PRE, our pathogen-rich environment, which we in turn will implement no sanitizing countermeasures. Know what I mean, Mike? This way, what we collect will be data on a regular untreated hand, which we then can compare the relationship it has, remember the cause and effect relationship we talked about earlier? It has to the other samples with identifying or controlled variables, i.e. the hand sanitizer and soap. Make sense? And then we are in the data. Oh yeah! I think you will find the results of our test interesting. Come on, Mike, let's take a look. 86 degrees, and that's where it's been hovering around for about 24 hours, and that's where we find ourselves at now. 24 hours later. Take a look at this, Mike. What do you notice first off?
I see bubbles.
Yeah, that's condensation. We got a lot of condensation. Ooh, but they're in all of them, right?
Yeah.
Which tells me that they would all be equally affected. So, I'm told it's a common problem. So, let's take a look. Don your gloves. Okay, so let's take a look at the pre-control group first. 24 hours later. Ooh. Ooh, look at that. Control group. Look at that.
Lies.
Yeah.
I thought this was bubbles, not water.
So this is, you're not seeing what's in there? All that discoloration is a colony. With soap for 24 hours. One or so those 3 small little things?
Yep.
1, 2, 3. Those are the colonies that came from your mom's hands after she washed the soap. This is the homemade sanitizer. Can you see those dots there? Here's the real test. The Purell. Woo! There's a lot of them. There's more than there in the homemade stuff, but it's they're all real small. Can you see all those, Mike?
Yep.
How many are there?
There's one that's squished together, so
Do you have a count?
let's see. 1, 2.
Don't touch.
1, 2, 3.
All right. I count way more than the homemade. So yay for the homemade stuff so far. And let's try the dollar store. Woo! Look at all that. So the dollar store stuff sucks. Okay. And these speak. Let's go back to the control so you can take a look. Look at that. See how that. Look how big difference. But look at the difference between that and the dollar store. Okay. And this is day 24. I would fire her. But then she'd get rid of me. Alright, so, and yes, I am wearing the same thing I wore yesterday. Shut up.